The great council chamber of the Galactic Cooperative fell silent as Ambassador HFY stepped forward. The crystalline being's body flickered with desperate red patterns that every species in the room understood as extreme distress. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 12 different worlds watched with growing fear. "Friends," HFY began, their voice carrying through the universal translators, "we face the end of everything we have built." The holographic display in the center of the room showed a map of their galaxy. Red markers spread across it like a disease, each one marking a world that no longer existed. 17 planets had fallen in just 6 months, billions of lives gone. Commander Krathak of the Cathari Defense Force stood on his insect-like legs, his antennae twitching nervously. "The Vorthan hive has broken through our outer defenses. Our fleets cannot stop them. They consume everything in their path." The other representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Vorthons were a nightmare from the dark spaces between stars. They didn't just conquer worlds, they ate them. Every living thing became food for their terrible hunger. Trees, animals, even bacteria. Nothing survived their passage. "Our weapons are useless," continued Krathak, his voice bitter with defeat. "Energy blasters that can stun a rampaging beast simply bounce off their bio-armor. Our ships are built for peace, for exploration. We never prepared for something like this." Elder Mothra of the Wisdom Council floated in her hover chair, her ancient face grave. "In 3,000 years of galactic peace, we forgot how to fight real wars. We police minor disputes, stop small conflicts. But this," she gestured at the spreading red on the map, "this is extinction." The room erupted in panicked chatter. Representatives spoke over each other in a dozen languages, all asking the same question. What could they do? HFY raised a crystalline hand for silence. "Our intelligence division has found something." "A possible solution." The chatter stopped. Hope flickered in alien eyes and sensor organs. "There is a species on the galactic rim, young, primitive by our standards. We discovered them only recently, and planned to make contact in a few centuries, after they had time to develop proper civilization." Dr. Veltar, the cooperative's chief xenobiologist, activated his tablet. Species designation, human. Third planet of a yellow star system. They achieved nuclear fusion 200 years ago. Faster than light travel only 50 years ago. Very advanced for their age, but... He paused, looking embarrassed. They still use kinetic weapons. Projectiles that physically impact targets. Chemical explosives. Primitive war machines. Several representatives made sounds of disgust. Kinetic weapons were considered barbaric by civilized standards. "They fight each other constantly," continued Dr. Veltar. "Their history is nothing but warfare. They have weapons designed specifically to kill other humans. They even have weapons that could destroy their entire planet." "Savages," muttered someone from the back of the chamber. Elder Mothra leaned forward. "Perhaps, but they are the only species in this galaxy that still knows how to wage real war." The chamber fell silent again. The truth hung heavy in the air. Their beautiful, peaceful civilization had no idea how to fight something like the Vorthans. But somewhere on the edge of space, a young species had never stopped preparing for war. Ambassador HFY's body flickered with new patterns. Not quite hope, but something close to it. "We could offer them full membership in the cooperative. Access to all our technology. Faster ships, better medicine, unlimited knowledge, and in exchange for what?" asked Commander Krathak. "Military assistance against the Vorthon threat." The debate that followed lasted hours. Some representatives argued it was too dangerous to involve such a violent species. Others worried about what humans might do with advanced technology. A few suggested it was better to die as civilized beings than live as warriors. But as reports came in of the Vorthons attacking 2 more worlds, the choice became clear. They were going to die anyway if they did nothing. The vote was close, but it passed. Dr. Veltar spent 3 days crafting the message, trying to explain their situation in terms humans would understand. The final transmission was simple. "To the leaders of Earth, we are the Galactic Cooperative Council, representatives of 12 spacefaring species. Our civilization faces extinction from an enemy called the Vorthan hive. They consume entire worlds and cannot be stopped by our current military capabilities. We require support against this existential threat. In exchange, we offer full membership in our cooperative and unlimited access to our technology, including faster-than-light travel, advanced medicine, and scientific knowledge spanning 3 millennia. Please respond if you are willing to provide military assistance. The message was sent across 40 light-years of space, compressed into a tight beam transmission that would reach Earth's solar system in just hours thanks to quantum relay technology. The response came back faster than expected. The humans had their own quantum communication network, crude but functional. The reply was brief. We understand your situation. We accept your offer. We are on our way. No questions about payment. No demands for guarantees. No lengthy negotiations about terms and conditions. Just a simple promise. Dr. Veltar stared at the message, confused. That's it? They didn't ask about numbers of enemy ships, defensive capabilities, tactical situations. They know nothing about space warfare. Commander Krethak clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Maybe they don't need to know. Maybe they just need to know there's a fight. 3 weeks passed. The Vorthans consumed another world while the Galactic Cooperative waited. Some representatives began to doubt their decision. What could one primitive species do that their combined fleets could not? Then the sensors detected them. 12 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kethmore system. The humans had arrived. The alien observers studied the human vessels with growing confusion. They looked nothing like proper starships. No graceful curves or elegant design, just angular metal boxes covered in weapons. Gun barrels and missile pods stuck out from every surface like the spines of some mechanical beast. Those ships are so ugly, whispered one of the technical officers. But Dr. Veltar was studying the sensor readings with growing amazement. Their power output is incredible. And look at those weapon systems. I've never seen anything like them. The lead human ship, a massive vessel bristling with cannons, sent a transmission. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Indomitable. We're here to discuss your Vorthan problem. Ambassador HFY felt something they hadn't experienced in months. Not quite hope, it was too early for that. But for the first time since the war began, they felt like maybe, just maybe, they were no longer alone. The humans had come, and even though their ships looked crude and their weapons seemed primitive, there was something about them that made the Vorthans' bioarmor and superior numbers seem a little less terrifying. Something in Admiral Chen's voice suggested that Earth had sent more than just military support. They had sent people who understood that some fights were worth everything, no matter the cost. The real war was about to begin. The meeting room aboard the cooperative flagship felt tense as Admiral Sarah Chen's hologram materialized at the conference table. The human woman appeared to be in her 50s, with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Her uniform was simple compared to the ornate robes and ceremonial armor worn by the alien commanders. Ambassador HFY's crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy as they made introductions. Around the table sat the surviving military leaders of the Galactic Cooperative, Commander Krethak of the Cathari, General Wexelon of the Hegemony Guard, and Fleet Admiral Tothron of the Stellar Navy. We are grateful you came so quickly, HFY began. The situation has grown worse since our transmission. The Vorthans have established a foothold on Kethmore's northern continent. Admiral Chen studied the tactical display showing the planet below. Massive biostructures dotted the surface like tumors, pulsing with sickly light. Tell me about your enemy. Commander Krethak leaned forward on his 6 legs. The Vorthans are unlike anything in our databases. They don't build technology, they grow it. Their ships are living creatures the size of cities. Their ground forces are bioengineered predators designed for one purpose: consumption. They land these massive organism ships on planets, added General Wexelon, their tentacles writhing with anxiety. The ships root themselves deep into the ground and begin converting all organic matter into biomass. Trees, grass, animals, even soil bacteria, everything becomes food. Fleet Admiral Tothron activated a recording that made several officers look away. This is what happened on Veltara. The hologram showed a world being slowly digested. The green continents turned brown, then black, as the Vorthan biostructures spread like cancer across the surface. How long does the process take? Chen asked, her voice steady. 6 months for a planet this size, Krethak replied. They work slowly, methodically. By the time they finish, nothing remains but bare rock. Admiral Chen nodded, taking notes on a simple paper pad. The aliens found this primitive habit strange. Why not use digital storage? What about your military response? The alien commanders exchanged uncomfortable glances. General Wexelon spoke first. Our weapons are designed for peacekeeping operations. Energy blasters that can stun or disable. Non-lethal force fields. Weapons meant to stop conflicts, not destroy enemies. We tried everything, Kruthak added bitterly. Our most powerful plasma cannons barely scratch their bioarmor. Their ships heal damage faster than we can inflict it. Chen looked up from her notes. You've been fighting them for how long? 8 months. We've lost 17 worlds and most of our fleet. And in all that time, you've killed how many of them? The silence stretched uncomfortably. Finally, Fleet Admiral Tothron answered, We don't know. Our sensors can't tell if they're dead or just wounded. They don't seem to stay down. Admiral Chen set down her pen and looked at each alien commander in turn. Let me understand this correctly. You've been in a war for 8 months and you don't know if you've killed a single enemy? Our weapons aren't designed to kill, HFY said defensively. We are a peaceful civilization. We resolve conflicts through diplomacy and non-violent means. The Vorthans aren't interested in diplomacy, Chen replied. They're interested in eating you. She stood and walked to the tactical display, studying the biostructures on Kethmore's surface. You asked for support. What exactly did you have in mind? Commander Kruthak's antennae twitched hopefully. We need you to help cover our evacuation ships. Your kinetic weapons might buy us enough time to save more civilians from the planet. Admiral Chen turned back to face them, and something in her expression made the aliens nervous. Commander, we didn't travel 40 light years to run support for an evacuation. We came here to solve your Vorthan problem. Admiral, General Wexelon's tentacles curled with confusion. Perhaps you don't understand the scale of the threat. Intelligence reports indicate over 300 Vorthan biovessels in this system. Your fleet has 12 ships. I understand perfectly, Chen replied. You're outnumbered 25-1. Your weapons don't work. You're losing planets faster than you can evacuate them. She paused. You wanted support. We're delivering shock and awe. Fleet Admiral Tothron leaned back in confusion. Shock and awe? It's a human military doctrine, Chen explained. Rapid dominance through overwhelming force and psychological impact. The goal isn't just to defeat the enemy. It's to destroy their will to fight. Kruthak's mandibles clicked nervously. Admiral, with respect, how can 12 ships achieve what our combined fleets could not? Chen smiled, and the expression was not entirely reassuring. Because you've been fighting the wrong kind of war. You're trying to be civilized against an enemy that doesn't understand civilization. You're using non-lethal weapons against something that wants to eat you. She activated her own tactical display, showing the human fleet positions. We've been studying your combat records during our journey here. Your tactics are designed for peacekeeping, maintaining order, minimizing casualties, preserving infrastructure. Those are the foundations of civilized warfare, HFY protested. Maybe, Chen agreed. But the Vorthans aren't civilized. They're an extinction-level threat, and humans have a lot of experience dealing with extinction-level threats. The aliens looked confused. Dr. Veltar, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. Admiral, our records show humans have never faced anything like the Vorthans. Chen's smile became grimmer. No, but we've spent our entire history fighting the most dangerous predator in our galaxy, each other. Every weapon we've built, every tactic we've developed, every strategy we've tested, it was all designed to kill other humans. And humans are very, very good at killing. She turned back to the tactical display. You've been treating this like a police action, trying to minimize damage and casualties. We're going to treat it like what it is, total war, the kind where only one side survives. Commander Kruthak shifted uncomfortably. What exactly does that mean? It means we're going to do things that will probably horrify you, Chen said matter-of-factly. We're going to target their food supplies, their reproduction sites, their command structures. We're going to use weapons you consider barbaric. We're going to fight dirty, hit them where they're weak, and keep hitting until they're all dead. The silence in the room was deafening. Finally, Ambassador HFY asked, And if your approach fails? Admiral Chen checked her chronometer. Then we'll die trying. But the thing about humans is, we're really bad at knowing when to quit. She looked around the table at the nervous alien faces. You asked for military support? That's what we do. We support our allies by eliminating their enemies. All of them. She began shutting down her hologram projector. I suggest you pull your ships back to minimum safe distance. What we're about to do is going to get messy. As the hologram faded, the last thing the aliens heard was Admiral Chen's voice. All human ships. This is indomitable. Execute Operation Deathblow. Let's show these parasites what happens when they threaten our friends. The aliens sat in stunned silence, suddenly understanding that they had invited something into their galaxy that might be more dangerous than the Vorthons themselves. But as alarms began blaring throughout their ship, announcing another Vorthon attack, they realized they were about to find out if human brutality could save them all. The human attack began at dawn, and nothing the aliens had seen in 3,000 years of galactic peace had prepared them for it. From the observation deck of the cooperative flagship, Commander Krithak watched through his compound eyes as the human fleet spread out in what appeared to be a chaotic formation. No elegant battle lines, no ceremonial positioning, just 12 ugly metal ships moving like predators stalking prey. "They're launching fighters," reported Lieutenant Vexta from the sensor station. Karthak looked at the tactical display and felt his antennae twitch with confusion. Fighters? Those are tiny ships. One pilot each, maybe two. What can they possibly accomplish against bio-vessels the size of cities? His question was answered within minutes. The human fighters moved unlike anything in the cooperative database. Instead of the careful defensive patterns used by civilized species, they flew in aggressive swarms, diving and weaving around the massive Vorthon bioships like angry insects. Their weapons, primitive kinetic cannons and chemical explosive missiles, began punching holes in bioarmor that had shrugged off the most powerful energy weapons. "How are they penetrating the carapace?" asked Dr. Veltar, who was monitoring from the science station. "Impact velocity," replied the sensor operator, their voice filled with disbelief. "They're moving at speeds that should tear their ships apart. The kinetic energy alone is enormous." But the real shock came when the human fighters began ramming attacks. Did that pilot just fly directly into the bioship? Krithak stared at the display in horror as a human fighter deliberately crashed into a Vorthon nerve cluster, the explosion taking out both the pilot and a critical enemy system. Confirming deliberate collision, the sensor operator reported. The human pilot aimed for the brainstem equivalent. Both destroyed. More fighters followed the same pattern. Not all of them. The humans weren't suicidal. But when conventional attacks failed, human pilots would simply drive their ships into critical targets like living missiles. "This is insane," whispered Dr. Veltar. "No civilized species would sacrifice pilots like this." Admiral Chen's voice crackled over the communication system. "Cooperative flagship, this is indomitable. We're beginning orbital bombardment of planetary targets. Recommend you maintain current distance." Krathak opened a channel. "Admiral, there are still civilians on that planet. Millions of them in the southern cities. Confirmed. We've identified all civilian population centers. They're not being targeted. Then what are you bombing?" The answer came in the form of massive explosions across Kethmore's northern continent. But instead of targeting the Vorthon biostructures directly, the humans were hitting everything around them. Forests that the Vorthons were harvesting for biomass vanished in nuclear fire. Rivers that fed the biostructures were poisoned with chemical weapons. Even the soil itself was being sterilized with some kind of molecular weapon. "They're destroying the food supply," Dr. Veltar realized with growing amazement. On the planet's surface, the Vorthon biostructures began showing signs of distress. Their pulsing lights grew erratic as they're feeding. Tentacles found nothing but poisoned earth and radioactive ash, but the humans weren't finished. Drop. Ships began launching from the human fleet. Crude, angular craft that dove toward the planet like falling meteors. They crashed through the atmosphere with no regard for stealth or safety, landing hard in clearings near Vorthon positions. "They're landing troops," Krithak reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "On the planet, with active Vorthon ground forces." "That's suicide," said General Wexlon, who had arrived on the observation deck. "Vorthons can infect other species with their larvae. Any creature that gets too close becomes a host for their young." Through the ship's powerful telescopes, they watched human soldiers pour out of the dropships. These weren't the elegant energy shield-protected peacekeepers of the cooperative forces. These were warriors in heavy armor, carrying weapons that looked designed for one purpose: killing. The humans advanced on Vorthon positions with tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They used chemical weapons that specifically targeted Vorthon respiratory systems. They deployed area denial weapons that made entire regions uninhabitable. Most shocking of all, they fought at close range, engaging Vorthons in hand-to-hand combat with weapons that could cut through bioarmor. "How are they not getting infected?" asked Dr. Veltar. The answer came from intercepted human military communications. The humans had spent their journey to Kethmore analyzing captured Vorthan biomatter and developing countermeasures. Their armor was lined with materials toxic to Vorthan larvae. Their weapons were coated with chemicals that neutralized Vorthan biological agents. They planned for this, Krithak realized. They studied the enemy during their approach and developed specific countermeasures. But what truly amazed the watching aliens was how the humans fought. When a soldier was wounded, their comrades didn't retreat. They fought harder. When a position was overrun, the humans didn't surrender. They detonated explosives that killed both themselves and their attackers. When facing impossible odds, the humans didn't ask for quarter. They charged forward screaming battle cries that made the Vorthons hesitate. "Their tactical doctrine is completely different from ours," observed General Wexlon. "We fight to minimize casualties and preserve life. They fight to achieve objectives regardless of cost." Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication system again. "Cooperative flagship, be advised. We're detecting Vorthon reinforcements approaching from the outer system. Recommend you evacuate civilian ships to minimum safe distance." "Admiral," Krithak responded, "our sensors show over 50 bioships incoming. You'll be outnumbered 4-1. Acknowledged. We're redeploying to intercept." The aliens watched in fascination as the human fleet moved to engage the incoming Vorthons. But instead of forming defensive lines or seeking advantageous positions, the humans did something that defied all military logic. They charged straight at the enemy. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Human ships moved with reckless aggression, trading armor and hull integrity for positioning and firepower. They used their own vessels as shields, sacrificing smaller ships to protect larger ones. They detonated damaged ships as improvised bombs when enemy biovessels got too close. "They're not trying to win cleanly," Dr. Veltar observed with growing understanding. "They're trying to hurt the enemy as much as possible before they die." But the humans weren't dying. Against all odds, their brutal tactics were working. Vorthan bioships evolved for overwhelming weaker opponents, found themselves facing an enemy that hit back with equal savagery. The biological armor that protected them from energy weapons was being torn apart by kinetic rounds fired at velocities that physics said should be impossible. "How are their ships generating so much power?" asked the sensor operator. Dr. Veltar was studying the readings with growing amazement. "They're running their reactors at dangerous levels. Any civilized species would consider those power outputs suicidal." "Maybe that's the point," Krethak said quietly. "Maybe being civilized is what made us weak." On the planet below, human ground forces were achieving the impossible. They weren't just holding their positions against Vorthon attacks. They were advancing. Biostructures that had taken root weeks ago were being systematically destroyed by human demolition teams who fought their way through hordes of Vorthan defenders. The turning point came when a human marine, a soldier named Captain Rodriguez, according to intercepted communications, single-handedly fought her way into a Vorthon command structure. She was wounded, her armor breached, already infected with Vorthon larvae that should have turned her into a host within minutes. Instead, she activated a device that the alien sensors couldn't identify. The entire biostructure convulsed, then went silent. The infection that should have consumed her had somehow been turned against the Vorthons themselves. "What did she do?" Krithak asked. Admiral Chen's voice answered over the open channel, calm despite the chaos around her. "Biological warfare. We modified captured Vorthan genetic material to create a virus that attacks their neural networks. Captain Rodriguez just introduced it directly into their command structure. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the battlefield, Vorthon forces began showing signs of confusion and disorganization. Their coordinated attacks broke down into random, uncontrolled movements. The humans pressed their advantage with ruthless efficiency. They didn't accept surrender because the Vorthons couldn't surrender. They didn't take prisoners because the Vorthons couldn't be imprisoned. They simply kept fighting until every Vorthon on the planet was dead. As the battle wound down, Krithak found himself staring at the tactical display in stunned silence. In less than 12 hours, humans had accomplished what the combined galactic cooperative forces couldn't do in 8 months. They had completely eliminated a Vorthan foothold and saved an entire world. But as he watched human ships systematically hunting down fleeing Vorthan vessels, Krithak realized something that made his blood run cold. The humans weren't finished. They weren't just defending Kethmore, they were going hunting. 3 weeks after the Battle of Kethmore, the Galactic Cooperative found itself dealing with a new reality. Humans at war were unlike anything they had imagined. Commander Krythak stood in the Human Command Center aboard the UES Indomitable, watching Admiral Chen coordinate what she called deep strike operations. The room buzzed with activity as human officers moved with mechanical precision, coordinating attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. Target Alpha 7 confirmed eliminated, reported Lieutenant Torres from the communication station. No Vorthon survivors detected. Target Beta 3 requests orbital support, called out another officer. Marine ground teams are encountering heavy resistance. Admiral Chen studied the galaxy-wide tactical display with cold efficiency. Red markers showed known Vorthon positions, while blue markers tracked human task forces moving to eliminate them. The aliens watching felt increasingly uncomfortable as they realized the scope of what humans considered a normal military operation. "Admiral," Krythak said carefully, "your forces are attacking 17 different systems simultaneously. How is this possible with only 12 ships?" Chen looked up from her planning table. "We're not using 12 ships anymore. Earth has been mobilizing since we left. The second fleet arrived yesterday and the third fleet will be here within the week." The aliens exchanged nervous glances. They had assumed the initial 12 ships represented Earth's entire military capability. "How many ships are you bringing?" asked Dr. Veltar. "As many as necessary," Chen replied simply. "The Vorthons have consumed 17 worlds and killed billions of sentient beings. That makes them an extinction-level threat to galactic civilization. Earth takes extinction-level threats seriously." Captain Zara Martinez, the leader of human ground forces, entered the command center still wearing combat armor stained with alien blood. She moved with the easy confidence of someone who had spent weeks fighting impossible odds and winning. "Admiral, we've completed the sweep of the Veltara system," she reported. "All Vorthon biostructures eliminated. The planet is sterile but recoverable." Krythak's antennae twitched with confusion. "Veltara was consumed months ago. Our intelligence indicated it was completely overrun." Captain Martinez looked at him with something that might have been pity. "Your intelligence was wrong. The Vorthons had converted maybe 40% of the planetary biomass. The rest was just damaged. But our sensors showed no life signs," protested Dr. Veltar. "Because you were looking for complex life," Martinez explained. "Bacteria, fungi, simple organisms. They were hiding in caves, deep soil, underwater thermal vents. Life finds a way to survive, even against the Vorthons." She activated a holographic display showing Veltara's current state. The planet looked scarred and brown, but small patches of green were already beginning to appear near the poles. "Recovery teams estimate the ecosystem will be functioning again within 50 years, Martinez continued. 100 years and it'll be fully restored. Not bad for a dead world." The aliens stared at the display in amazement. They had written off every consumed world as permanently lost. The humans had turned one of them into a recovery operation. "How many other worlds can be saved?" asked Krythak. Admiral Chen consulted her tactical display. "Intelligence suggests about half. The others were too thoroughly consumed, but even those might be terraformable with enough effort." "Terraformable?" Dr. Veltar looked confused. "You mean you can make dead worlds livable again?" "Of course," Chen replied, as if this should be obvious. "Humans have been terraforming planets for 2 centuries. It's expensive and time-consuming, but entirely possible." The casual way she said it sent chills through the alien observers. These humans weren't just warriors. They were world builders on a scale the Cooperative had never imagined. "Admiral," Lieutenant Torres called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Task Force Gamma. They've located what appears to be a Vorthon queenship." The command center fell silent. Queenships were theoretical, massive biovessels that supposedly controlled entire Vorthon fleets. No one had ever confirmed their existence. "Location?" Chen asked. "Kepler 442 system, approximately 30 light-years from here. The ship is the size of a moon, and appears to be coordinating Vorthon operations across this entire galactic sector." Admiral Chen studied the data for a moment, then made a decision that horrified the watching aliens. "Signal Task Force Gamma to maintain distance and continue observation. We're going after it." "Admiral," Krythak protested, "a queenship would be defended by hundreds of biovessels. Even with your reinforcements, you'd be outnumbered 50-1. Chen smiled, and the expression made the aliens nervous. Commander, you're still thinking like you're fighting a defensive war. We're not trying to survive contact with the Queen ship. We're going to kill it. Captain Martinez grinned. About time. I was getting bored with the small stuff. Over the next week, the aliens watched in fascination and growing horror as humans demonstrated their approach to impossible odds. Instead of massing their fleets for a direct assault, they began what they called asymmetric warfare. Human ships appeared throughout the Kepler 442 system, but not where the Vorthans expected them. They attacked supply convoys, communication nodes, and isolated outposts. They used guerrilla tactics that the Vorthans, evolved for direct confrontation, couldn't effectively counter. They're not trying to defeat the enemy fleet, Krithak realized as he watched the tactical display. They're trying to make it ineffective. Exactly, Admiral Chen confirmed. The Queen ship controls its fleet through bio-neural links. We're systematically destroying those links, isolating it from its defenders. The breakthrough came when human scientists working with captured Vorthan biomatter developed something they called a neural virus. Unlike the biological weapon used on Kethmore, this was specifically designed to attack the quantum entanglement networks that Vorthon organisms used for long-range communication. You can sever their hive-mind connection? Dr. Veltar asked in amazement. Better than that, replied Dr. Sarah Kim, the human xenobiologist. We can turn it against them. The virus doesn't just cut communication. It sends false signals, makes them think their queen is giving orders that she isn't. The final assault on the Queen ship was unlike anything in recorded military history. The humans didn't attack it directly. Instead, they infected its defender fleet with the neural virus, then sat back and watched as hundreds of biovessels began attacking each other, confused by conflicting signals from their compromised hive mind. When the Queen ship finally stood alone, its defenses turned against it by its own confused children. Captain Martinez led a boarding operation that the aliens insisted was suicide. You can't fight Vorthans in close quarters, Krithak warned. They'll overwhelm you with sheer biomass. Maybe, Martinez agreed. But we've been studying Vorthon biology for months now. We know their weak points. The boarding operation lasted 18 hours. The aliens monitoring from orbit listened to radio chatter that painted a picture of combat so intense and brutal that several representatives left the observation deck in distress. But when it was over, Captain Martinez's voice came through the communication system. Tired but triumphant. Admiral, this is Martinez. The Queen is dead. Repeat, the target is eliminated. The effect was immediate and galaxy-wide. Across 17 star systems, Vorthan biovessels suddenly went dark. Without their Queen's coordination, the hive mind network collapsed. Individual Vorthan organisms, evolved to follow central commands, found themselves unable to function independently. Within days, human task forces were reporting the same thing from every Vorthan-occupied system. Complete enemy collapse. They're not fighting back, reported one confused Marine captain. They're just sitting there. Like they don't know what to do. Admiral Chen's response was characteristically direct. Then kill them while they're confused. All of them. And that's exactly what the humans did. By the end of the month, the Vorthan hive, a threat that had terrorized the galaxy for generations, was extinct. Not defeated, not contained, not driven back to the dark spaces between stars. Extinct, every bioship destroyed. Every ground force eliminated. Every trace of Vorthon presence in the galaxy systematically hunted down and eradicated. The aliens who had asked for support found themselves staring at a galaxy suddenly, eerily quiet. The red markers that had spread like cancer across their star charts were gone. All of them. It's over, whispered Ambassador HFY, their crystalline form flickering with disbelief. They're all dead. Admiral Chen, cleaning her sidearm with methodical precision, looked up at the alien representatives gathered in her ready room. Did you expect anything else? She asked. You told us they were an extinction-level threat to galactic civilization. Humans take extinction-level threats very seriously. Krithak found his voice. But the scale of it? Hunting them across the entire galaxy. Commander, Chen said quietly, for most of human history, we only had each other to fight. We got very good at total war, very good at making sure our enemies never threaten anyone again. She holstered her weapon and stood. The galaxy is safe now. The Vorthans will never hurt anyone again. Isn't that what you wanted? The aliens realized they had no answer for that. It was exactly what they had wanted. They just hadn't understood what it would look like when humans deli 6 months after the extinction of the Vorthan hive. The Galactic Cooperative Council convened for the first time in their new reality. The Great Council chamber looked the same, but everything had changed. At the circular table where once only alien representatives sat, humans now occupied seats as full members of the galactic community. Ambassador Sarah Chen, Admiral, Chen's younger sister and Earth's first galactic diplomat, listened politely as the Cathari, Representative Krithak discussed trade route disputes between the Bai hegemony and the Stellar Confederation. The proposed shipping lanes would add 3 days to our cargo runs, Krithak explained, his antennae twitching with mild irritation. This represents a significant economic burden for our merchant fleet. The other representatives nodded sympathetically. Such disputes had occupied the council for hours in the past, requiring careful negotiation and complex compromise. Ambassador Chen looked up from her notes. Forgive me, but is this actually a problem? Can't you just use different routes? The chamber fell silent. Krathak's compound eyes focused on the human ambassador. Well, yes, technically there are alternate paths, but the established protocols require. So there's no actual threat to anyone's safety or survival? Chen interrupted gently. No one's going to die if cargo takes an extra 3 days. The alien representatives exchanged glances. No, admitted the hegemony delegate, but the economic implications are manageable, Chen finished. This seems like a very minor issue compared to what you were dealing with 6 months ago. Elder Mothra of the Wisdom Council floated forward in her hover chair. Ambassador Chen, these trade disputes may seem trivial to your species, but they represent the foundation of peaceful galactic commerce. I understand, Chen replied diplomatically. I'm just saying 6 months ago you were facing extinction. Now you're worried about shipping schedules. That seems like progress. The meeting continued, but the tone had shifted. Issues that once seemed urgent now appeared minor when viewed through the lens of human perspective. Border disputes, resource allocation arguments, cultural misunderstandings. None of it carried the weight of life and death that humans were accustomed to dealing with. During a recess, Commander Krithak approached Ambassador Chen in the corridor outside the chamber. Your species troubles us, he said without preamble. Chen raised an eyebrow. In what way? The way you think about conflict. The way you solve problems. Krithak's antennae drooped slightly. For 3,000 years, the cooperative has resolved disputes through negotiation, compromise, careful diplomacy. We take pride in finding peaceful solutions. That's admirable, Chen said. But you showed us something different. You showed us that some problems don't have peaceful solutions, that sometimes the only answer is complete total victory over your enemy. Chen considered this carefully. The Vorthans didn't leave you much choice. They couldn't be reasoned with, couldn't be negotiated with. They existed only to consume. Sometimes peaceful species need warriors to protect them. That's what frightens us, Krithak admitted. We asked for support and you gave us something we'd never seen before. Absolute security. The Vorthans are gone. Not just defeated, but extinct. No one in the galaxy will ever face that threat again. Isn't that good? Yes, Krithak said slowly. But it makes us wonder what other problems you might solve with the same thoroughness. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Veltar, who approached with a data tablet clutched in his tentacles. Ambassador Chen, I have the preliminary reports from the planetary recovery operations. Your terraforming teams have exceeded all projections. Chen accepted the tablet and scrolled through the data. Veltar is looking good. Full ecosystem restoration ahead of schedule. The other worlds? 7 of the consumed planets will be fully habitable within 50 years, Dr. Veltar reported with amazement. 3 more within a century. We thought those worlds were lost forever. Life is resilient, Chen said. It just needs help sometimes. But the scale of it, Dr. Veltar continued. Your species has committed to a 1,000-year terraforming project. The resources, the planning, the sheer determination required. It's what we do. Chen replied simply. We fix things. We protect things. We make sure the galaxy is safe for everyone. Later that evening, in the human delegation's quarters aboard the station, Ambassador Chen met with General Harrison, the commander of the newly formed Human Defense Corps. How are the recruitment efforts going? She asked. Better than expected, Harrison replied. Every cooperative species has volunteers wanting to join the Corps. They want to learn human military doctrine. And our people? Adapting well. The alien technologies are impressive. Their sensors and communications are centuries ahead of ours, but they're learning that technology isn't everything in warfare. Chen nodded. What about the patrol schedules? Harrison activated a holographic map of the galaxy. Blue markers showed Human Defense Corps ships stationed throughout cooperative space. We've got coverage on all major shipping lanes and population centers. If anything like the Vorthans shows up again, we'll know about it within hours. Good. The last thing we want is another species like the Vorthans catching everyone off guard. About that, Harrison said carefully, there's been some discussion among the alien leadership about our thoroughness in dealing with threats. Chen sighed. They're scared of us, can you blame them? We wiped out an entire species in 6 months. Even I find that a little disturbing when I think about it. The Vorthans weren't people, General. They were a galactic plague. You don't cure cancer by negotiating with it. I know, and I agree with what we did. But the aliens have a point. We do solve problems very permanently. Chen walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the darkness, ensuring that no threat could emerge undetected. Other human teams worked on dead worlds, bringing them back to life through sheer determination and advanced technology. General, for most of human history, we were alone. We only had ourselves to protect. Now we have something bigger. A whole galaxy full of species that never learned how to fight real wars. They're peaceful, creative, intelligent beings who deserve to live without fear. She turned back to face him. Yes, we solve problems permanently. That's what you do when the alternative is extinction. These species asked for support and we delivered shock and awe. But more than that, we delivered security they never thought possible. The aliens worry about what happens if we decide they're a problem, Harrison pointed out. Chen smiled, but there was steel in her expression. Then they shouldn't become a problem. The galaxy is big enough for everyone as long as everyone wants peace. 3 weeks later, the first major test of the new galactic order came when long-range sensors detected an unknown fleet approaching from outside the galaxy. The ships were unlike anything in the databases, angular, aggressive-looking vessels that refused to respond to communication attempts. The Cooperative Council went into emergency session, and for the first time in months, the old panic began to creep back into their voices. Unknown fleet, approximately 40 vessels, approaching the outer rim colonies, reported the sensor technician. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. Are they hostile? Asked Elder Mothra. Unknown. They're not responding to our hails. Ambassador Chen stood calmly. General Harrison, how long to get a task force to the intercept point? Human Defense Corps ships are already moving into position, Harrison replied. We'll have overwhelming force advantage within 24 hours. Krethak looked nervous. What if they're peaceful? What if this is just a misunderstanding? Chen's expression didn't change. Then they'll have nothing to worry about. We'll make contact, determine their intentions, and proceed accordingly. And if they're not peaceful? Admiral Sarah Chen's voice came over the communication system from her flagship. Then they'll learn what happened to the last species that threatened galactic security. The galaxy has guardians now. We protect our friends. The unknown fleet was met at the galactic rim by Human Defense Corps vessels, sleek ships that combined human military doctrine with alien technology. The encounter lasted exactly 17 minutes. The unknown vessels were scouts from a conquering empire that had consumed 3 other galaxies. They came expecting to find primitive civilizations ready for harvest. Instead, they found humans. The few ships that survived long enough to send a message back to their empire carried a simple warning. This galaxy was protected by warriors who did not accept surrender, did not show mercy to those who threatened innocent life, and would pursue any aggressor to the ends of the universe if necessary. Back in the Cooperative Council chamber, the representatives sat in stunned silence as they received the after-action reports. The entire scout fleet? Whispered Dr. Veltar. Completely eliminated, confirmed General Harrison. No survivors. We've also deployed long-range sensor buoys to monitor for any follow-up incursions. Ambassador Chen addressed the chamber. The galaxy remains secure. Any species that wants to live in peace has nothing to fear. Any species that threatens that peace will be dealt with accordingly. Krethak found his voice.
You make it sound...
Commander Thelvos stood on the bridge of the dominant flame, staring at displays that showed nothing but failure. Red warnings covered every screen. The ship's main systems were dead. Around him, his officers worked frantically at their stations, but their faces told the same story. They were trapped. The Xanthari Imperial fleet had been the pride of the Empire for 300 years. 12 massive warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. 50,000 of the Empire's finest warriors, scientists, and crew members. They had been on a routine patrol through the Korvax Nebula, a journey they had made 1,000 times before. Nothing should have gone wrong, but everything had gone wrong. The quantum drives had failed all at once. One moment, the fleet was moving through subspace at incredible speed. The next moment, every ship had been thrown back into normal space like stones skipped across water. The drives were burned out completely. Worse, the sudden stop had damaged other systems throughout the ships. Life support was failing. Power was dropping. Communications were weak. Thelvos had commanded warships for 40 years. He had fought in 7 major battles. He had never known fear like this. In battle, you could fight back. Here, there was nothing to fight. Just the cold emptiness of space and the slow countdown to death. Status report, he said, keeping his voice steady. A commander could not show fear. His second officer, Krelnax, looked up from his station. His scaled face was pale. Life support at 60% across the fleet, dropping 2% every hour. Power reserves at 40%. The quantum drives are completely destroyed. We cannot repair them with what we have. Thelvos felt his chest tighten. How long? 30 hours until life support fails on most ships. Maybe 40 on the dominant flame. 30 hours. Less than 2 days. 50,000 lives. Send distress signals on all frequencies, Thelvos ordered. Full power. Let everyone know we are here. He did not say what they both knew. They were 17 light-years from the nearest Xanthari outpost. Even if the signal reached home immediately, even if a rescue fleet left at once, they could not arrive in time. The Xanthari Empire did not have ships fast enough to save them. But Thelvos was a warrior. He would not give up while breath remained in his body. The hours crawled past like wounded animals. The distress signal went out screaming into the void. The fleet drifted in the darkness between stars. Engineers worked desperately to keep systems running. Medical teams prepared for the worst. Everyone knew what was coming. On the second day, they received responses to their distress signal. Thelvos felt a moment of hope before he read the messages. The first was from the Krelix Dominion, their oldest rivals. Xanthari fleet, your distress has been noted. The Dominion remembers the Treaty of Krell. You violated our territory 3 years ago. Let the void take you. This is justice. The second was from the Yithrin Collective. We received your signal. Unfortunately, we have no ships in your region. We wish you well. A polite way of saying they would not help. The third was from a Xanthari listening post, 17 light-years away. Message received. Rescue fleet being organized. Estimated arrival time, 9 days, 9 days. They had less than 1 day left. Thelvos read the messages to his senior staff. No one spoke. What was there to say? We are Xanthari, Thelvos finally said. We will face the end with honor. Make sure all crew members understand. There will be no panic, no chaos. We go into the dark as warriors. His officers saluted and left to spread the word. Alone in his command chamber, Thelvos allowed himself a moment of weakness. He thought of his family on the homeworld. His mate, his 3 children. He had sent them a final message hours ago, but he did not know if it would reach them in time. The Xanthari had ruled their sector of space for 1,000 years. They had conquered 12 systems. They had defeated every enemy that challenged them. And now they would die in the dark, killed by a malfunction, forgotten by everyone except those who hated them. It seemed like a cruel joke. The life support continued to fail. The air grew thin and cold. Some crew members began to struggle with breathing. Medical stations filled with the weak and the sick. The ships became tombs waiting to be sealed. On the 3rd day, with only hours of breathable air remaining, Thelvos made his final log entry. This is Commander Thelvos of the Xanthari Imperial Fleet. We have done our duty to the last. We fought the darkness as long as we could. To whoever finds this recording, know that we were Xanthari. We were warriors. We did not surrender to death. It had to take us by force. He closed the log. Around him, the bridge was quiet. His crew sat at their stations, waiting. Some prayed to the old gods. Some simply stared at the stars. Thelvos looked at the main display, showing the empty space around them. A beautiful way to die, he supposed. Surrounded by stars, then one of those stars moved. Commander. The sensor officer's voice cracked with emotion. 3 ships approaching. Not Xanthari design. Unknown configuration. Thelvos stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Show me. The display changed. 3 vessels were moving toward the fleet. They were small compared to Xanthari warships. Strange shapes, unfamiliar technology. The sensor officer worked frantically at his controls. They are slowing down, coming to a stop near our position. They are hailing us. Put it through, Thelvos ordered. A voice came through the communication system. The translation software struggled with the language, but the words came through clearly enough. Xanthari Fleet, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Exploration Convoy. We received your distress signal. We are here to help. What do you need? Thelvos stared at the display. Humans. He had never heard of them. They were not on any Xanthari charts, but they were here. They were here. This is Commander Thelvos. We need everything. Life support failing. No power for repairs. We are dying. There was a pause. Then the human voice came back, calm and steady. Understood. We are deploying repair teams now. Hold on. You are not dying today. On the display, smaller craft began launching from the human ships. Dozens of them, heading toward the Xanthari fleet. Thelvos felt something he had not felt in 3 days. Hope. His second officer looked at him with wide eyes. Commander, who are these humans? Why are they helping us? Thelvos shook his head. I do not know, Krelnax. I do not know. But as he watched the human ships approach, he made a decision. If they survived this, if these strange aliens saved them, he would spend the rest of his life finding out why. Because in a galaxy where rivals let you die and allies were too far away, someone had come when no one else would. The human ships drew closer, and for the first time in 3 days, Thelvos allowed himself to believe they might survive after all. Captain Sarah Chen had been drinking coffee when the distress signal came through. It was her 3rd cup of the morning, which meant it was going to be a long day even before the universe decided to complicate things. Captain, we are picking up something strange, her communications officer said. Lieutenant Park was young but good at his job. When he said something was strange, it usually was. Define strange, Sarah said, setting down her coffee. Distress signal. Very powerful. Not human origin. Language unknown, but the pattern is clear. Someone needs help. Sarah moved to the main display. The signal's origin point appeared on the star chart. It was close. Maybe 6 hours away at current speed. She pulled up the analysis. 12 large vessels. Very large. Much bigger than ours. No power signatures. They are dead in space. Sarah's convoy consisted of 3 ships. The Iron Mountain was a mining hauler, carrying equipment and supplies to a new colony site. The New Hope was a colony transport with 500 civilians on board. The Vigilant was a small military escort frigate. Sarah commanded the convoy from the Vigilant. She looked at the readings again. 12 massive ships. Unknown design. Unknown species. Dead in space. Her first officer, Commander Marcus Webb, stepped up beside her. Could be a trap. Could be, Sarah agreed. Could also be someone dying, Park added quietly. Sarah studied the display. Marcus was right to be cautious. First contact situations were dangerous. The unknown ships were clearly more advanced than human vessels. If it was a trap, her small convoy would not stand a chance. But the distress signal was real. She could feel it. Someone out there was dying. How many people do you think are on those ships? She asked. Park worked his console. Based on size and configuration, maybe 40 to 50,000. 50,000 lives. Sarah thought about the 500 civilians on the New Hope. Families, children, people trying to build a better life on a new world. She thought about how she would feel if they were stranded and no one came to help. Change course, she ordered. Take us to them. Marcus did not argue. He knew her well enough. Aye, Captain. All ships follow our lead. The convoy turned and headed toward the unknown fleet. As they approached, Sarah sent a message on all frequencies. Unknown vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Exploration Convoy. We received your distress signal. Can you respond? For a long moment there was nothing. Then a voice came through. The translation software struggled but managed to convert the alien words. This is Commander Thelvos of the Xanthari Imperial Fleet. We need everything. Life support failing. No power for repairs. We are dying. The voice sounded tired, desperate. Sarah had heard that tone before. It was the sound of someone who had given up hope and then found it again. Understood, Sarah replied. We are deploying repair teams now, hold on. You are not dying today, she turned to Marcus. Get every engineer we have. Pull maintenance teams from all 3 ships. Bring all the spare parts and life support equipment we can carry. Medical teams on standby. Captain, Marcus said carefully, if we give them our supplies, we might not have enough for the colony. Then the colony will have to wait, Sarah said. We can call for more supplies. These people cannot wait. Marcus nodded and started giving orders. Within minutes, dozens of small craft were launching from the human ships. Each one carried engineers, medical staff, and equipment. Sarah watched them go, feeling the weight of her decision. She had just committed her entire convoy to helping strangers, aliens they knew nothing about. It might be the biggest mistake of her career, or it might be the most important thing she ever did. The small craft reached the alien fleet. Sarah listened to the radio chatter as her teams made contact. This is Team 1, making contact with the largest vessel. They are opening an airlock. Going in now. Team 3 here. We are reading critical life support failure on this ship. Multiple casualties. Medical team moving in. Team 7. Captain, you need to see this. These ships are incredible. The technology is way beyond ours. But everything is fried. It will take days to fix, Sarah grimaced. Days. They might not have days. Do what you can. Focus on life support first. Keep people alive. We can worry about engines later. Over the next hours, Sarah watched as her teams worked miracles. Human engineers crawled through alien ships, figuring out systems they had never seen before. They connected human life support units to Xanthari ships. They shared oxygen tanks. They gave food and water to the dying aliens. And slowly, the Xanthari fleet came back to life. Sarah decided it was time to meet their commander face to face. She took a shuttle to the largest Xanthari ship, the Dominant Flame. The Xanthari were impressive. They stood nearly 7 feet tall with scaled skin that shifted between blue and green. Their faces were angular with large eyes and sharp teeth. They looked like predators, warriors. Commander Thelvos met her in the airlock. He towered over her, but his expression was not hostile. He looked confused. Captain Chen, he said. The translator made his voice sound mechanical, but she could hear the emotion beneath it. You came. You actually came. Your people needed help, Sarah said simply. Of course we came. Thelvos stared at her. We are strangers. You owe us nothing. We are not part of your empire. We cannot pay you. Why did you risk your ships and your people to help us? Sarah blinked. It seemed like an odd question. Because you needed help. That is enough. That is not how the galaxy works, Thelvos said. No one helps for free. What do you want? Territory? Technology? Resources? We want you to not die, Sarah said. That is all. Thelvos looked like she had hit him with something heavy. He turned to one of his officers and spoke in his own language. The officer looked equally shocked. They both stared at Sarah like she was an alien, which Sarah supposed she was. I do not understand your people, Thelvos finally said. That is okay, Sarah replied with a small smile. We can learn about each other. But first, let us make sure everyone survives. My engineers say your ships need major repairs. We do not have all the parts you need, but we can stabilize life support and power. Then we can figure out how to get you home. Home is 9 days away, Thelvos said quietly. Our rescue fleet cannot arrive in time. Then we will keep you alive for 9 days, Sarah said. Or longer if needed. Whatever it takes. Thelvos was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer. The Krelix Dominion said we should die. The Ithran Collective said they could not help. Our own people are too far away. You are the only ones who came. Then I guess it is a good thing we were nearby, Sarah said. Over the following days, humans and Xanthari worked together. It was not easy. The two species were very different. The Xanthari were formal and hierarchical. They had trouble understanding human humor and casual attitudes. When a human engineer made a joke while fixing a critical system, the Xanthari thought he was not taking it seriously. When humans shared their limited food supplies equally with the Xanthari, the aliens did not understand why they were not demanding tribute. But slowly, understanding grew. The Xanthari watched humans work impossible hours without complaint. They saw human medical teams treat Xanthari wounded with the same care they gave their own people. They heard humans laugh while solving problems that would make Xanthari engineers despair. Sarah spent time with Thelvos, explaining human culture. She told him about Earth, about how humans had a long tradition of helping strangers, about maritime rescue laws that said you always saved people in danger no matter who they were. "It is just what you do," she explained one evening in his command chamber. "But why?" Thelvos asked. He genuinely did not understand. Sarah thought about it. "Because someday we might be the ones who need help, and we hope someone would do the same for us. But more than that, because it is right. Because we are all living beings trying to survive in a big, cold universe. We should help each other." Thelvos looked at her with his large, alien eyes. "Your species is very strange, Captain Chen," Sarah laughed. "You are not the first person to say that." But as she left his chamber, she saw something in his expression. Respect, wonder, and maybe, just maybe, hope for something better than the galaxy he had known. Engineer Maria Santos had never expected to become friends with an alien warrior. But life had a way of surprising people. She was working in the engine room of one of the Xanthari cruisers, trying to figure out their power distribution system. It was incredibly complex, far beyond anything humans had built. But it was also broken, and broken things needed fixing. That was something Maria understood. A young Xanthari warrior named Korvash watched her work. He was assigned to assist her, though he clearly did not know much about engineering. He was a soldier, trained for combat, not repairs, but he followed her around and handed her tools when she asked. "Why do you hum?" he asked after an hour of silence. Maria looked up from the power conduit she was examining. "What?" "You hum. A sound. Not words. Why?" Maria had not even realized she was doing it. "Oh, I don't know. It helps me think, I guess. Makes the work feel less lonely." Korvash tilted his head, a gesture that looked very alien on his scaled face. "Work should be serious, silent. You treat it like play." "Work can be serious and fun at the same time," Maria said, returning to the conduit. "If you can't enjoy what you do, what's the point?" "The point is duty," Korvash said. "Honor, service to the Empire." Maria shrugged. "Sure, but you can serve and still smile, right?" Korvash did not answer. He just watched her work with an expression she could not read. Similar conversations were happening all over the fleet. Humans and Xanthari were learning about each other, and both sides were confused. In the medical bay of the New Hope, Dr. James Park treated Xanthari patients with severe respiratory problems. The Xanthari had been breathing thin air for days and their lungs were damaged. James worked quickly, administering oxygen and medication. A Xanthari medical officer named Shalnira watched him carefully. She was tall, even for a Xanthari, with dark green scales and sharp, intelligent eyes. "You give them the same treatment you would give humans," she observed. "Of course," James said, adjusting an IV line. "They're patients. They need help. But they are not your people. You have limited medical supplies. Should you not save them for your own?" James looked at her in surprise. "I'm a doctor. I help anyone who needs it. That's the job." "That is not logical," Shalnira said. "Your own people should come first." "Maybe," James admitted. "But what kind of person would I be if I let someone die when I could save them? I couldn't live with myself." Shalnira was quiet for a long time. "Humans are very strange," she finally said. James smiled. "Yeah, we get that a lot this week." On the dominant flame, Commander Thelvos met with his senior staff. They were discussing the humans, trying to understand them. It was not going well. "They have given us 30% of their food supplies," his logistics officer reported. "They are now on reduced rations themselves. For us. For strangers. They have diverted their entire convoy," his navigation officer added. "The colony they were supplying will be delayed by weeks. They will lose money, time, resources for us. They work all hours without complaint," the chief engineer said. "Our warriors rest in shifts. The humans just keep working." One of their engineers collapsed from exhaustion yesterday. When we told him to rest, he said he would rest when everyone was safe. Thelvos listened to all of this with growing disbelief. Every report made the humans seem more impossible, more irrational. "They have superior technology in some areas," his intelligence officer said. "Their medical equipment is more advanced than ours. Their material science is impressive, but they treat us as equals. They ask our engineers for advice. They share their knowledge freely. Why? Thelvos demanded. Why would they do any of this? No one had an answer. A junior officer, a historian named Velmoth, spoke up hesitantly. Commander, I have been reviewing the human data files. They gave us access to their cultural database. I found something interesting. Show me, Thelvos ordered. Velmoth displayed information on the main screen. Humans have laws about helping others in danger. Very old laws, thousands of years old. On their world, on their oceans, there is something called maritime law. It says if you see someone in danger on the water, you must help them, even if they are your enemy. Even if it risks your own safety. It is considered a fundamental duty. The staff stared at the display. They made it a law? Someone asked. It goes deeper, Velmoth continued. Their religions, their philosophies, their stories. So many of them focus on helping strangers. They have a concept called the Good Samaritan from an ancient story. A man helps a stranger from a rival group who was injured. This story is told to their children as an example of virtue. Velmoth brought up more files. They have organizations dedicated to helping strangers, groups that go to disaster zones to provide aid, people who donate their time and resources to help others they will never meet. They call it charity. Humanitarian work. They consider it noble. Thelvos felt something shift in his understanding of the universe. This is their culture. Helping strangers. It is part of their culture, Velmoth said. They also fight wars. They have conflicts. They are not perfect. But yes, helping others seems deeply embedded in their way of thinking. The room was silent. The Xanthari had conquered their way across 12 systems. They had built an empire on strength and dominance. The idea of helping rivals, of wasting resources on strangers, was alien to them. But here were the humans doing exactly that. Days passed. The work continued. And slowly something began to change. Maria taught Korvash how to repair power systems. She showed him tricks and shortcuts, sharing knowledge that would have been secret in Xanthari culture. Korvash began to understand that work could be satisfying in itself, not just a duty. One day, as they finished connecting a new power relay, Maria cheered and high-fived him. Korvash did not know what a high five was, but he learned quickly. And for the first time in his life, he found himself smiling while working. Dr. Park and Shalnira worked together to treat patients. Shalnira watched James treat every patient the same way, whether human or Xanthari. She began to understand that his kindness was not weakness. It was a different kind of strength. When a human patient needed a rare blood type and they were running low, Shalnira suggested using Xanthari medical technology to synthesize it. She did not have to help. The patient was not her responsibility, but she did it anyway. James thanked her, and she found she liked the feeling it gave her. Throughout the fleet, these small moments multiplied. A Xanthari soldier shared his emergency rations with a hungry human engineer. A human mechanic taught a Xanthari technician a better way to calibrate sensors. A group of humans and Xanthari ate together, sharing stories about their homes. Captain Chen visited the ships regularly, checking on progress. She noticed the changes. Humans and Xanthari were no longer just working together. They were becoming friends. One evening, she found Thelvos standing in an observation room looking at the stars. "Penny for your thoughts," she said. Thelvos looked at her. The translator struggled with the idiom. "I do not understand. It means, what are you thinking about?" "My people," Thelvos said slowly. "My empire. We have existed for 1,000 years. We conquered 12 systems. We defeated every enemy. We thought we understood the galaxy. Strength matters. Power matters. The weak are consumed. The strong survive." He gestured at the human ships visible through the window. "Then you arrived. Small ships. Weak weapons. Inferior numbers. And you saved us. Not because you wanted something. Not because we had anything to offer. Just because we needed help." Sarah stood beside him. And I wonder if we were wrong. About everything. About what matters. About what makes a civilization great." He looked at her. "Your people are not weak, Captain Chen. You are strong in ways we never considered." Sarah smiled. "We're just doing what seems right." "You would do the same." "I am not sure we would," Thelvos admitted. "But perhaps we should learn how." He turned to face her fully. "When we return to our empire, I will tell them about humanity. I will tell them what you did for us. I do not know if they will believe me, but I will try to make them understand. Understand what? Sarah asked. That there is a different way to live, a better way perhaps. That helping others is not weakness. That kindness is not foolishness, he paused. Your people may have saved more than our lives, Captain Chen. You may have saved something more important. Our future. Sarah felt the weight of his words. She had come here just to help people in trouble. She had not thought about changing civilizations or challenging philosophies. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the most important changes started with simple acts of kindness. We're glad we could help, she said quietly. Outside the window, human and Xanthari ships floated together in the darkness surrounded by stars, two species learning from each other. And in that moment, the galaxy felt a little bit smaller and a little bit brighter. The warning came at the worst possible time. Lieutenant Park was finishing his shift on the Vigilant when his sensors lit up with new contacts. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, large ships, military configurations, and they were coming fast. Captain Chen to the bridge now. Sarah arrived in under a minute. She had learned to recognize that tone in Park's voice. It was the tone that meant trouble. Show me, she ordered. The display updated. 8 ships, each one comparable in size to the Xanthari cruisers. But these were different. Darker. More aggressive in design. They were heading straight for the stranded fleet. Are they Xanthari? Sarah asked. No, ma'am. Different configuration. Different energy signatures. I'm sending the data to the dominant flame for identification. The response came quickly. Thelvos appeared on the communication screen and his face was tight with anger and fear. Captain Chen, those are Krellick's Dominion warships. They are our enemies. They knew we were stranded. They ignored our distress calls. Now they come to finish us. Sarah felt her stomach drop. Can your ships fight? No. We have partial life support and basic power. Our weapons are offline. Our shields are down. We are defenseless. Thelvos paused. Captain, you should leave. Take your ships and go. This is not your fight. You have done more than enough for us. Sarah looked at the display. 8 Krellick's warships. 3 human ships. The Vigilant was a small escort frigate designed for patrol duty, not major combat. The Iron Mountain was an unarmed mining hauler. The New Hope was a transport with 500 civilians on board. This was not a fight they could win. They could not even pretend to fight. It would be suicide. Marcus Webb stood beside her, his expression grim. Captain, he's right. We should withdraw. We can't help them against that kind of firepower. Sarah knew he was right. The logical choice was to leave. Save her own people. She had already done more than anyone could expect. No one would blame her for retreating. She thought about the civilians on the New Hope family's children, her responsibility. She thought about the Xanthari who would die if the Krellics attacked. She thought about what it meant to be human. No, she said quietly. Captain? Marcus looked at her in alarm. We're not leaving. Sarah turned to her crew. Battle stations. All ships to defensive formation. Put us between the Xanthari fleet and those Krellic ships. Captain, that's insane, Marcus said. We can't stop them. They'll destroy us, maybe, Sarah agreed. But they'll have to go through us first. She opened a channel to all 3 human ships. This is Captain Chen. The Krellics are coming to attack the Xanthari. We're going to stop them. I know this isn't what we signed up for. I know some of you have families waiting at home. If anyone wants to break formation and leave, I'll understand. No judgment. No consequences, she waited. The channel was silent. Then one by one her ships responded. Iron Mountain standing by, Captain. Where you go, we go. New Hope holding position, Captain. Those Xanthari are our friends now. We don't abandon friends. Sarah felt a surge of emotion. Pride. Fear. Love for these impossible, brave, foolish humans. All right then, she said. Let's do this. Someone open a channel to those Krellic ships. The channel opened. Sarah took a breath and spoke clearly. Krellic's Dominion vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Exploration Convoy. The Xanthari fleet is under our protection. Turn back now, there was a pause. Then laughter came through the speakers. Cold, harsh laughter, humans. We do not know humans. We do not care about humans. Move aside or be destroyed with the Xanthari. The Krellic ships continued their approach. Sarah could see their weapons powering up. This is your final warning, she said. These people are under our protection. If you attack them, you attack us, more laughter. Then you will die with them. Sarah closed the channel. She looked at her crew. Well, I guess we do this the hard way. The human ships moved into position, forming a wall between the Zenthari fleet and the approaching Krelix. It was a gesture more than a defense. The Vigilance weapons would barely scratch those Krelix cruisers. But they were there, standing in the way. On the dominant flame, Thelvos watched in disbelief. They are insane. Why would they do this? His officers had no answer. None of them had ever seen anything like it. 3 small ships against 8 warships. It was not strategy. It was not tactics. It was suicide. But the humans stayed in position. Thelvos made a decision. Power up everything we have. Weapons, shields, engines. I don't care if it burns out every system. We stand with the humans. Commander, we barely have enough power to maintain life support, his chief engineer protested. Then we die fighting instead of waiting. Thelvos snapped. The humans are willing to die for us. We will not let them die alone. All ships battle formation. Protect the human vessels. Throughout the Zenthari fleet, alarms blared. Systems that had been carefully conserved for life support were redirected to weapons and shields. It would not be enough. They were still too damaged. But they would try. The Zenthari ships moved forward, forming up around the human vessels. 12 massive warships running on emergency power, standing with 3 tiny human ships. The Krelix fleet slowed. Sarah could imagine their confusion. This did not make sense. Why would the humans do this? Why would the Zenthari waste their remaining power on a fight they could not win? A new channel opened. A different voice, deeper and more controlled. I am War Leader Krexthor of the Krelix Dominion. Human Captain, you are making a mistake. We have no quarrel with you. Leave now and you may go in peace. Sarah leaned forward in her chair. And if we don't, then you will be destroyed. You cannot win this fight. Why throw away your lives for the Zenthari? They are not your people. They are not your allies. They are nothing to you. They're people who need help, Sarah said simply. That's enough. That is foolishness, Krexthor said. That is weakness. No, Sarah replied. That's humanity. She gestured to Park. Send them everything. Our history files. Our culture database. Everything about Earth and human civilization. I want them to know who we are. Park looked confused but did as ordered. Data streamed from the Vigilant to the Krelix fleet. Sarah continued speaking. War Leader Krexthor, we are humans. We come from a small planet called Earth. We are not the strongest species. We are not the most advanced. But we have one rule that we follow above all others. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We help those who need help, even if it costs us everything, she paused. The Zenthari are under our protection. If you want to attack them, you will have to go through us. And I promise you, we will make you pay for every life you take. You will win, but we will make you remember this day. We will make you remember what it costs to attack people under human protection. There was a long silence. Sarah could imagine the Krelix leadership discussing their options. They could destroy the human ships easily. But it would not be free. The humans would fight. And the Zenthari, desperate and damaged as they were, would fight too. It would be bloody, and for what? To destroy an already broken fleet? The Krelix ships slowed further. They were holding position now, not advancing. You are insane, Krexthor finally said. All of you. The humans for protecting enemies. The Zenthari for accepting help from weaklings. Maybe, Sarah said. But we're insane together. Another long pause. Sarah held her breath. This could go either way. The Krelix might decide to attack anyway. They might be too proud to back down. Or they might realize that this fight was not worth it. Finally, Krexthor spoke again. We withdraw for now. But know this, human captain. We will remember you. We will remember this day. When we meet again, things may be different. When we meet again, Sarah said, maybe we can talk instead of fight. The Krelix ships turned and began to move away, slowly at first, then faster. Within minutes they were gone, disappearing into faster-than-light travel. The human and Zenthari ships stayed in formation, weapons still powered up just in case. But the Krelix did not come back. Finally, Sarah let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Around her, the bridge crew was silent, processing what had just happened. Then someone started laughing. It was Park, and his laugh was slightly hysterical. We just bluffed a war fleet with 3 cargo ships. The laughter spread. Relief and disbelief and joy all mixed together. They had survived. They had won somehow. A communication came in from Thelvos. His voice was thick with emotion. Captain Chen, you stayed. You stood with us against an enemy that could have destroyed you. Why? Why would you do that? Sarah smiled, though her hands were shaking from adrenaline. Because that's what friends do, Commander. And somewhere over the last few days you became our friends. Thelvos was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer. I have served in the Zenthari military for 40 years. I have seen many battles, many allies, many enemies. But I have never seen anything like what you did today. You risked everything for people you barely know. You're welcome, Sarah said simply. No, Thelvos said. Thank you is not enough. There are no words in my language for what you have done. You saved our lives twice, once from death in the void, once from death in battle. And you asked for nothing in return. He paused. Captain Chen, I swear to you the Zenthari will never forget this. We will never forget humanity. What you have taught us. What you have shown us. It will change us. It will change everything. 3 months had passed since the rescue. 3 months since humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage in a way no one expected. Admiral Creshfall stood before the Zenthari High Council, a gathering of the Empire's most powerful leaders. They sat in a vast chamber carved from black stone, their scales gleaming in the dim light. These were the rulers of 12 systems, commanders of 1,000 worlds. They did not impress easily, but today Creshfall watched them listen with complete attention as Commander Thelvos gave his report. The humans stayed. Thelvos said, his voice echoing in the chamber. When the Krelliks came to destroy us, when we were helpless, when logic said they should flee, they stayed. 3 ships against 8 warships. They put themselves between us and certain death. They were willing to die for people they had known for less than a week. The council members looked at each other. High Counselor Vrenthak spoke, his voice heavy with skepticism. You are certain this is accurate? They received nothing in return? No territory? No technology? No promises of alliance? Nothing, Thelvos confirmed. I offered them access to our technology. I offered them trade rights. I offered them diplomatic ties. They refused everything. They said they helped because it was the right thing to do. Impossible, another counselor said. No species acts this way. There must be some hidden motive. Thelvos had expected this. He had spent 3 months preparing for this meeting. I brought evidence. Data files, recordings, testimony from 50,000 Zenthari who witnessed human actions, and I brought something else. He activated a display showing the human cultural database. This is humanity's history. Their values. Their philosophy. They have been helping strangers for thousands of years. It is not a trick. It is not a scheme. It is simply who they are. The council watched the display showing humans rescuing people from disasters, sharing resources with starving populations, risking their lives to save strangers. Again and again the same pattern. Help those who need it regardless of reward. This changes everything, Admiral Creshfall said quietly. If this is true, if there exists a species that acts from pure altruism, then our entire understanding of galactic politics is wrong. High Counselor Vrenthak leaned forward. What do you propose, Commander Thelvos? Thelvos took a breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for. I propose we learn from them. For 1,000 years we have believed that power and conquest make an empire great, but the humans showed me a different kind of strength. The strength to help without expecting reward. The strength to sacrifice for strangers. Perhaps that is true greatness. You suggest we change the foundation of our empire? Vrenthak asked dangerously. I suggest we expand it, Thelvos replied. We have built an empire on military might. It has served us well. But what if we also built an empire on trust, on cooperation, on the kind of actions the humans showed us? We would be stronger, not weaker. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some agreed. Some called Thelvos a fool. Some demanded more proof. But they were talking about it, debating it, considering it. That alone was a victory. Admiral Creshfall raised a hand for silence. Commander Thelvos, you will establish formal contact with humanity. Learn more about them. If they are what you say they are, then we must understand them. Because if they can make us question 1,000 years of tradition in 3 days, they are the most dangerous and important discovery in our history. Far from the Zenthari homeworld, in the capital of the Krelliks Dominion, war leader Krexthor gave his own report. They bluffed us, he told his superiors. 3 cargo ships against our war fleet. They had no chance, but they made us believe they would fight anyway. They made us believe they would make it costly. Why did we retreat? His commanding officer demanded. Because they were insane, Krexthor said. Because they meant it. I saw the data from their ships. They were ready to die, all of them. For strangers. I have never seen anything like it. And I realized that fighting an enemy who has no fear of death is always expensive. The question is, was destroying an already damaged Zenthari fleet worth starting a war with this new species? He paused. I decided it was not. We withdrew to gather intelligence, to learn more about these humans. And what have you learned? His commander asked. Krexthor displayed the human cultural database that Sarah had sent them. That they are exactly what they appeared to be. Irrational. Self-sacrificing. Dangerously altruistic. And that makes them unpredictable. You cannot threaten someone who is willing to die for their principles. You cannot intimidate someone who values others' lives more than their own comfort. Weakness, someone in the room muttered. Is it? Krexthor challenged. They stood alone against us. They did not have to. They gained nothing from it. Yet they did it anyway. And we blinked first, who was weak in that moment. The room fell silent. I recommend we do not engage humanity unless absolutely necessary, Krexthor continued. Not because they are militarily superior, but because they fight by rules we do not understand. And in my experience, that is the most dangerous enemy of all. The story spread, from the Zenthari to the Krelix, from the Krelix to the Yithrin Collective, from the Yithrin to a dozen other species. Each time the story was told, it grew slightly. But the core remained the same. Humans had saved strangers at great risk to themselves. Humans had faced down a superior enemy to protect people they barely knew. Humans had done these things not for reward, but because they believed it was right. Some species dismissed the story as propaganda. Some thought it was exaggerated, but many listened and wondered. On a trading station near the galactic core, a merchant from the Vorlax Consortium heard the story from a Zenthari trader. The Vorlax were known as the most ruthless business people in the galaxy. They believed in profit above all else. But the merchant, whose name was Trell Ixon, found himself thinking about the story. About humans who gave without taking, who helped without charging. It was inefficient. It was irrational. It was also beautiful in a strange way. Trellixon made a decision. The next time he saw someone in trouble at the station, he helped them. Not for profit. Not for favor. Just to help. It felt strange. It felt uncomfortable. It also felt good. Small acts multiplied across a galaxy. A Yithrin diplomat decided to support a humanitarian mission she would have previously ignored. A Krelix captain chose to answer a distress call instead of ignoring it. A dozen species and a dozen systems made small choices to be a little bit kinder, a little bit more helpful. Not everyone, of course. The galaxy was still full of conflict, greed, and violence. But something had changed. A seed had been planted. On Earth, in a small office at the United Nations Space Exploration Council, Sarah Chen sat across from Director Williams. She had been back home for 2 weeks and she was still processing everything that had happened. You caused quite a stir, Williams said, not unkindly, threatening an alien war fleet, redistributing supplies without authorization, diverting an entire convoy on your own authority. I know, Sarah said. I violated about 30 protocols. I'm ready to accept whatever consequences. Williams smiled. Consequences? Captain Chen, you just made humanity the most talked about species in that entire sector of space. We've received contact requests from 17 different civilizations. The Zenthari want to establish formal diplomatic relations. Even the Krelix have expressed interest in dialogue. He leaned forward. You didn't just save 50,000 Zenthari lives. You introduced humanity to the galaxy in a way that no planned first contact could have achieved. You showed them who we are at our best. I just helped people who needed it, Sarah said. Exactly, Williams replied, and that's why it worked. You weren't trying to impress anyone. You weren't trying to make a statement. You just did what humans do. And apparently that's revolutionary in galactic politics. He handed her a folder. This is your new assignment. First contact ambassador to the Zenthari Empire. If you want it. Sarah looked at the folder in surprise. You want me to be a diplomat? I want you to keep being exactly what you are, Williams said. Someone who does the right thing, even when it's hard. Apparently that's exactly what the galaxy needs right now. Sarah opened the folder and looked at the orders. She thought about Thelvos and his crew, about Maria and Korvash, about Dr. Park and Shalnira, about all the connections that had been made during those desperate days. "I'll do it," she said. 6 months after the rescue, the Zenthari High Council announced a new initiative. They called it the Humanity Doctrine. It established that the Zenthari would respond to distress calls, even from non-allies, that they would render aid to those in need when possible. That strength was not just about military power, but about the character to help others. Not everyone in the Empire agreed. There was resistance, debate, and argument. But slowly the idea took hold, because 50,000 Zenthari had seen humanity's actions firsthand, and they told their families, their friends, their communities. They told the story of the humans who came when no one else would, who stayed when logic said to leave, who risked everything for strangers, and the story changed them. In a small bar on a human colony world, Maria Santos sat with her engineering crew, celebrating the end of their latest